Well, today is International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia. I beg your pardon, where are we in 2018 when it comes not only to the legislated rights, but also the lived experiences of LGBTI people in South Africa? We're joined now in the studio from the Intersex South Africa's Tani Anakak, and who's going to be talking to us about this day. Good evening to you, and thank you for talking to us. Let's start with our poll tonight that we've been running. We're asking the question that on this International Day against homophobia, is South Africa becoming less or more homophobic? And our poll tonight reflected that South Africa is becoming more homophobic, biphobic, transphobic.
I think that's a clear indication of where, a lot of society is standing, because it clearly articulates the level of ignorance that is out there. And because of the level of ignorance that is out there towards the community, there's a lot of homophobia that is happening, which is leading to a lot of hate crimes going on in the country. This day reminds us that there should be a shift to that. This day reminds us to celebrate why we should be against that and why we should all come together. And that's what you appreciate from this day.
In South Africa specifically, we do have the constitutional protections, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the lived experiences of many LGBTI people.
Exactly, and this is exactly why I said social, right? Because we could have this beautiful constitution, but how is it broken down and brought into societies? How are societies interpreting this constitution? Is this constitution even being preached, And added to that, we're talking about, we could also bring this down to communities that are in places where they don't have access, right? How are they learning? Do they even have access to a constitution? To them, maybe a constitution doesn't exist, and maybe the rules are put in their hands. And that's why you have people that commit heinous crimes, people that do horrible things to the community, to the LGBTI community, because they feel that they could have the law and take it into their own hands.
There are many aspects to this, and on days like this, typically the conversation focuses very largely on the L and the G part of that community, but there are wider conversations that need to be had around what it means to live the queer existence in 2018.
Yeah, I love the word that you used, queer, right?
What does that even mean for somebody who doesn't know?
Right. The word queer is a beautiful term that defines being LGBTI in the most broad sense. You could come as you are, you could exist as you are without even feeling, even if you're part of this community, feeling like you have to fit into a binary, right? Or fit into a certain box. So the word queer openly expresses how you could exist in these multiple spectrums, right? You could be trans and lesbian. You could be trans, you could be lesbian and be of intersex experience, And that's what's beautiful about using that word.
Homophobia, biphobia, transphobia. In the age of social media, I saw a meme that says, it's not a phobia, you're not scared, you're an a-hole. Is it a phobia? Let's call a spade a spade.
See, I don't know if I would call it a phobia. And I go back to the first point I made. I think it's just plain ignorance. I think when people don't have an understanding of certain things, they tend to shut out. And that causes, that brings about a huge level of, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
That's fine. It brings people to act in particular ways they may not even understand themselves. And I think we'll leave the conversation there. It's still startling, of course, that in the face of all the evidence and the information that's out there, we still have to have these conversations.